Hello, everyone, and welcome to my lovely YouTube channel. So, this is the Ignatius L. Jackson CPA YouTube channel, and today we are talking about a cool topic. So, I have one of my clients that's coming on to discuss what he does in his business. So, he does two things. He does short-term rentals on like Airbnb, VRBO, etc. Okay, and then he also does Turo, where he does like running cars and stuff like that. And I just found out he's actually also doing some car rental stuff off Turo, which is pretty cool. So we're going to talk through some of that stuff. This is going to be an exciting episode. We're going to get into some nitty gritty and maybe explain to you how to make some side money by doing either short-term rentals or doing some car rentals. So go ahead and stick around. We're going to be right back in a second. All right? Peace. Woo! All right, everybody, and we're back. So here's what we're going to do today. So I got a special guest here. His name is Wilber Caminero, and he's going to go through and talk through some stuff about his rentals for Airbnb, VRBO, short-term rentals that he has going on. And we're also going to touch through and talk through some stuff regarding what he does for his vehicle sharing stuff. And so those are two pretty common things I think people are trying to do to make a little extra money. So, in this inflationary economy, we got to kind of think outside the box on some ways that you can kind of make some money. And so it's pretty cool stuff. And so I want to just go ahead and loop him in. Maybe Wilbur, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of give us a little bit of the high level of what you do and how you make money and all that good stuff.
Absolutely, man. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I follow your content, of course, lots of good information. So basically, I started first, it was with Turo. I started with my personal vehicle, and I wanted to get a test of it first and get my feet wet. And once I started like seeing the income and how you can generate money with your vehicle, then, I started learning about business credit. And that's when, in my journey, right, along learning about business credit, I learned that you were actually able to acquire vehicles under your business name. And that's how, after seeing my first income with my first car, I proceeded and got two more cars. And after seeing that, I remember like posting those cars. And before I finished posting the cars on Turo, I got bookings right away, and I got so excited. So that got me motivated. Today we have a fleet of about 12 cars. And then, from there also, I always keep my ears on the ground to see what's going on, what's good for business. And then I started doing Airbnb as well, which we're going to talk later, how you can definitely get these two businesses, get them running under your business name, and just generate an extra income.
Awesome. Yeah, so we talked through a business credit episode on the podcast that I do a couple episodes ago with somebody, and so I think the audience is pretty familiar with that, but definitely want you to kind of just explain a little about your history as well, because the person we had on the podcast was more of a professional. He does it on a day-to-day basis. You kind of taught yourself along the way how to build your business credit on your own. So yeah, it'd be cool to kind of hear just briefly about your story about the business credit, because I know you kind of utilize that to get yourself some of your vehicles. And then maybe we can hop into just a little bit more about how you really got into the whole Turo stuff and how it's been working out for you so far and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so as I said before, I acquire the first two vehicles under the business name. And the advantage with that, though, is that, those two loans were not really affecting my personal credit. And I heard a podcast where you have that gentleman talking about business credit, and he does it really, like you said, another level. He does it for Fortune 500 companies, so he's working really another level. And what I did really was just research and information and reading and looking at other, content creators talking about the same thing. But one thing is that you have to keep in mind is that the first thing you have to do is just establish and structure your company the right way from the get-go. So there are a lot of information that you have to get straightened away from the moment that you are filing for the Secretary of State to form your company. So that's very important, because when you're applying for the lower tier accounts, that doesn't really affect you. So you get accounts like Crown and Uline, just the usual accounts. They are not going to care if some information on your business is not consistent. Now, when you get to Sam's Club to get like $15,000 on a credit card, revolving credit, when you get to Best Buy getting, $30,000 in equipment, when you get to Sunbelt Rental, when you get to Synchrony Bank, that you get up to like $15,000 for Amazon account. When you get to these different tier accounts, WEX also have some gas accounts that you cannot only pay for gas. You can book hotels, you can pay for dinners and all that with some of the gas cards. So when you get to that level is when the underwriters start to take a more in-depth look to your company. Okay. And for example, with Synchrony, if there is like a little bit of inconsistency on your business information, then that's going to affect their decision and they're going to deny you. Now, this is the part that they deny you, but they don't tell you why. So you're here breaking your your head, like, why did they deny me? And in our Facebook group, we have people like asking this question, but because we went through it and we know, like, okay, this is the reason why they denied me. There's some conflicting information in LexisNexis that is not letting me get approved for a Synchrony account. Now, going back to Turo though, so we have two cars, because I took off my personal car. That's when the pandemic hit, and my wife didn't feel comfortable having strangers. We didn't know anything about the pandemic. We didn't know what it was. We heard things like it wasn't on the pavement in the street that you have to take your shoes off. So there were a lot of questions about it. So I pulled out my personal car. I have now these two cars generating an income. And that's when I started to continue to buy the vehicles under the business name. Now, at some point, just like personal credit, your business credit just stretches a little thin. And when you go to apply for business credit to a dealership, just because you have these other loans, they may require you to personal guarantee. That's what I did with the rest of the fleet. I personal guarantee some of the loans because I saw the potential and the money that we could do with that side hustle. And we're now making six figures with the Turo business. Yeah, it's very important to know, like I said at the beginning, just structure your business the right way from the beginning. And then when you go to the dealerships though, do not talk to salesperson. The regular sales guys, they have no idea. They're used to deal with consumer credit, and they will tell you that that's not possible, and they will push you to personal guarantee the deal. So stay firm. Ask for the fleet manager. Don't talk to sales car person because they don't know what it is, business credit. They never heard of it. So speak with the fleet manager. They are more familiar with that. When you go to the dealership, that's going to save you about 3 or 4 hours.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Those little tidbits. That's pretty sweet. So pretty cool stuff that you got some of your cars and your business names. Some of them you expanded on with your personal guarantees and personal names. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's a great way to, like you said, build a business. So like you said, you're up to 6 figures, which is pretty sweet. And the nice thing about all those vehicles, depending on how much they cost and how much they weigh, what type of vehicles they are, You get a lot of awesome bonus depreciation that goes along with that, which can help to reduce your taxes and ultimately save you a ton of money from a tax standpoint as well. So, in that, at least in the first year, maybe first 2 years, depending on how you are growing. So, pretty cool little strategy there. Um, so, well, I guess if you're someone wanted to get into the Turo business, what would you say would be a piece of advice or um, some things that you learned along the way that you'd say, "Hey, I would have did this differently had I known when I started getting into it."
The first thing that I would say is if you're getting into the tour business, number one, don't buy cars that you like. Don't buy cars that you will buy them because you always wanted those cars and you wanted to get them. This is why I say that. And trust me, I have some Camaros that I love. The problem with that is that when you buy in a car that you like to put it on Toro, you have some emotional attachment to it, okay? And you're not gonna make the most money, okay? You're if something happens to the car, it's gonna hurt you, like it's gonna hurt you bad. So what I wanted to do when I started on Turo, I'm like, let me detach myself emotionally of these cars from the get go. uh my cars have been stolen, they have been crashed, and the first thing I do is like, all right, let me calm down. I'm gonna address this from a perspective of problem solving, right, troubleshooting, rather than like, oh, what am I gonna do, they crashed my car, and then you get upset at the guests. And my that's my first advice. I wanted to have cars that they were always out rented and that they were not luxury cars. Can you make money with luxury cars? Yeah, of course. There's a market for that. But in my case, I wanted cars that were always out, and they rented fast, and that if they break or something, the maintenance is not too expensive. Now, in terms of the maintenance, now that's my segue. Try to buy new cars. Try to not buy new cars that you can take them to the house, to the dealership real quick, and they can fix anything. All right. I'm not saying that all cars don't make money. They do. But if you can buy brand new cars that can be maintained, that they're not gonna break every other month, you're gonna just put them on Turo. You're gonna have peace of mind that you don't have to take time out of your busy time to now take them to the shop, and all things like that.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So that's great advice. And I so I've even tried the whole Turo thing out a little bit, and I don't know. I didn't go at full speed like you did, um, but I had one vehicle on there, and it was more so just trying to make a little bit of extra money, kind of a thing, to maybe help pay for some of the payments. So to kind of do a little bit of a hack and basically get enough income to essentially pay for the payment each month. And so, but I don't know. I ended up liking driving the vehicle too much, so I don't really. It's not really rented too often.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like, I'm speaking with it from a business perspective, but hey, if you want to buy a car that you like and you want to not pay money for it, that's the perfect hack. You buy the car under your business name, you put it in Toro, and you get to drive it too. So make sure that you buy kind of like some insurance to when you're off Turo, and you can drive it. So that's a perfect also idea. If there's a car that you like, you buy it under your business and you get to drive it. I was looking at a Scab. Is it a Challenger? I wanted the car, but I didn't end up buying it. It's just too much liability. I already have like two Camaros V8, and that's one of the ones that was crashed lately. But again, like these cars, I like driving them in the weekends if they're not rented and they're paying for themselves. It's not like a liability that I have to take money from other places and pay for the car. So they are paying for themselves, and I get to drive them. So that's a good idea. Now, but if you're thinking as a business, don't buy luxury cars. Like a lot of people buying like Porsches and like the Corvettes. How much are those Corvettes? Are like $120,000, man.
Yeah, they are expensive, so I don't know. I mean, some people I guess can get that done and make some money off of it, but it's not something that I'm trying to spend money on right now. So, all right, so that's a little bit about your Turo stuff that you got going on, and then you got yourself into something else. I think related to doing some short term rentals and a little trick related to that we call, I guess, rental arbitrage. You actually taught me about this because I didn't even realize that people were doing this. So that's one of the things I love about being a CPA is I come up with I have clients that are doing some out of the box stuff, and then I actually learned a little bit about what you were doing with it. So it's pretty cool to see what you're doing there. So maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about that side of your business as well.
Yeah, no, I knew like I've forever wanted to get into real estate, so I don't have the capital right now to buy properties and then put them on Airbnb. So then I learned about rental arbitrage. And what that is that you rent a house or an apartment, and with the permission with the apartment community or the homeowner, you sublet the property or put it on Airbnb, Verbo, and all these outlets, and that allows you to like say you're renting that property for $1,600, and you can make anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 a month for that piece of property. So that's what I learned to do, and I'm like, hey, and then I get into the Turo mentality. I can scale this. So we got up to, I believe, 23 apartments with that, houses and apartments with that mentality, and we were generating, my goodness, close to seven figures with that. Now, one of the mistakes that probably that's an advice for the audience. If you're doing that, try to diversify your market. Don't stay in the same market. If you're staying in one market, try not to acquire a lot of properties, because the Airbnb business is in Turo, any ride share or revenue share stuff, it's seasonal. And if you're in one state and the season is low, then you're gonna feel it 100%. Whereas when you have properties in different markets, one market is gonna make up for the other. So that's a piece of advice that I do for people who are starting on Airbnb. Now remember, none of these rentals have to be under your name. That's very important. Okay. Um, a lot of people do this for the wrong reasons. Okay, putting it under the company's name, and then sometimes they don't pay, and then they are very responsible. But the reason why you want to do everything under your business is that to cover you from liabilities. Remember, these are properties. Something can happen there, and if your name is tied up to it, then that's going to follow you. So you want to protect yourself. And one of the first questions you're gonna ask the apartment community or the homeowner is, do you accept corporate leasing? And then if they say yes, then the second question is, we're a business, we do this for a living. Would you allow me to do STR, short-term rental? And you take it from there. But it's very important that you take the appropriate steps to build a sustainable business.
Very good points, young sir. So very good points. So yeah, no, it's pretty sweet what you're talking about. The whole Airbnb short-term rental thing is pretty awesome, especially doing rental arbitrage because that is a common issue that I hear about. Like I try to encourage people to get involved in some real estate type activities because there is a lot of incentives and benefits to it. And a lot of times they're like in your shoes where you didn't have a lot of capital to kind of get it off the ground and rolling, and so doing rental arbitrage makes sense because it's fairly low dollar of entry. What would you say you can probably get a unit up and running for what about 15,000, 20,000, something like that?
Oh, to furnish it and everything, yeah, way less. Yeah, way less. Yeah. If you have like a luxury unit that is like 4 or 5 bedrooms and stuff like that, if you want to do it well, yeah, you should spend like anywhere from 10 to 15,000. But if you have like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, it shouldn't be that much. Now, this is where business credit comes in, right? Let's say you have an Amazon account, you have a Lowe's account, a Home Depot account, you have an IKEA account. Mostly those accounts are net 30, net 60. You can furnish the entire apartments with your account. If they give you, let's say, an 830, let's choose a short term to pay back. So if you have a net 30 account and you furnish this apartment within the first week, okay, you have an apartment furnished already. You don't have to pay that back yet. Your property is on the market and is being rented. And before you know it, you have the money already to pay back and you are $0 out of pocket. Now, that is in a perfect world, things happen, but that is the right way to do it, leveraging your business credit and the accounts that you've gotten under your business to not only acquire the piece of property, but also you're furnishing it. Okay. So you're not using your cash, you're not out of cash, you leveraging those accounts, and that allows you to furnish that property, get money back, pay it off, and then continue to do rinse and repeat.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hear you. That's pretty sweet. Um, yeah, that's a perfect example of utilizing that business credit to help you to get everything situated and uh, all that good stuff. So, the one thing I would say, um, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. Diversifying your marketplace would be a good benefit, and also, um, you know, taking it one day at a time, right? So, don't I wouldn't go too crazy and go and get like 20 units in 2 months or something like that. So start kind of slow, get a couple under your belt. If that goes good, get a couple more. If that goes good, so just kind of take it, month by month, not day by day, but month by month. Just kind of how you're doing, that we kind of see some of the trends, because like you said, it's very cyclical, the whole short-term rental thing. And I even do a couple of short-term rentals for some of my real estate that I have here in Phoenix, and it is pretty cyclical. So the rates that I'm getting right now, for example, are not as high as I think they should be, for this time of year, and especially with the holidays coming up and stuff like that. But there's a lot of other pressures that are coming into that equation. So between the inflationary economy that we have, a lot of governmental rules that are kind of coming into place, and some other stuff that's kind of happening, it's definitely creating some hurdles for, I think, for some of the short term rental market. And I think we also got a little oversaturated. Um, the last couple of years, at least here in Phoenix, and I think in some other places as well, the last few years have just been crazy in terms of short-term rentals. I think a lot of people got into the game because they heard how lucrative it was, and now there's a bunch of units out there, but the demand has dropped, quite a bit, just in the sense that I don't think people are traveling quite as much as they were over the summer and over the last year and a half. Um, and also, you got the travel nurses that are kind of slowing down a little bit and drying up a little bit. So there's a lot of factors that are going into it, right? Um, but yeah, it's still all in all a good opportunity to kind of make some side money, especially if you have like a casita in your backyard, with like a little guest house, something like that, that just sits there most of the time. Why not get that thing furnished and rent it on Airbnb? To give yourself a little extra money or something like that. So
Yeah, and you'll be surprised that could have offset your mortgage by a high percentage and even pay for it. I like to go back to something that you said that's very important, and I speak from a place of experience on that. Is that because I saw the opportunity, I went too fast. I went like 150 miles an hour. Okay, I wanted to just get to 100 units in a very short period of time, and that certainly backfired because of what you said. It's very cyclical, very seasonal, So what I would advise you to do in that case is that if you want to grow fast, that's okay, but you have to be conscious of what you're doing. Don't go too fast because you're gonna eat up your margin, and try to stay sit on as much cash as you want. Trust me, you're gonna if you start this business, you're gonna get a lot of cash with short-term rental, but try to sit on as much cash as you want, because my goal was to leverage the short-term rental to acquire my own real estate, just to buy my own real estate. So I also suggest that you do that with a goal. A lot of people doing Airbnb and short-term rental, they're really against owning the property. I can't seem to understand why, because I don't see the downside of owning the property. But hey, you see, everybody has different goals, so that's okay. But if I could really advise you on anything, is that sit on as much cash as you want as you do that business, because you're gonna get that cash back. But don't go too fast, don't grow too fast, and diversify your market, like Ignatius said.
Yeah, and to your point, I think the reason why you hear about people who, don't want to own the property, I think the primary reason is risk mitigation. So, what they're trying to do is make sure um, that if something goes wrong, like so let's say the market falls under a cliff the next day, or something like that, or you got some new regulation in your state or city or county that basically prohibits you from doing it anymore, it's fairly easy to get out of that lease by just paying a penalty, right? And you're out of it. Or you can shut down your LLC if you're using a corporate LLC and almost call it a day, as long as you're not personally guaranteeing the leases. So I think that's maybe the one reason why people are against doing it. But to your point, there's only upside to it, because one, you're increasing your margins typically. All right, so you can typically buy a property, convert it to a short-term rental for a lot less than what you're probably paying someone to do a rental arbitrage scenario for the rent and everything you got to put into that. Okay, and then two, it's actually more tax advantageous to own the property, because now you get what is my favorite term, one of my favorite terms, I should say, depreciation. So you get to depreciate that property now that you own it instead of just renting it. And that gives you a huge upside on the front end. We do it what's called a cost segregation study, which we've talked about on other episodes on the YouTube channel. And that saves you a ton of money on your taxes. And you're typically in the first couple years, you're going to save a ton of money on your taxes by doing a cost segregation study on that property, to where you're making money off of it, but not paying a dime in taxes. Now, I would say under the rental arbitrage scenario, and typically after the first year, usually once you buy all the furniture and everything, you're making a pretty sizable profit. And so there are going to be some taxes associated with that rental arbitrage scenario, because you don't own the property, you don't have any depreciation to offset some of that income. And so it's going to impact your taxes. But at the end of the day, that's okay, because you did make more money, right? So I wouldn't be too terribly concerned about that. Just know the differences between owning the property and then doing a rental arbitrage scenario.
Now, definitely, and that's an excellent point. Like, if again, I will say, I will go so far to say, and you probably correct me on this one, is that having an income tax that you're paying some kind of taxes on it, it's a good thing. If you're thinking on the long run, like I am, to buy properties, and you go to an investor or a bank and you show your income tax, that's a huge advantage for you when you're looking for funding to fund your other projects. Again, I think you should go into this business with a goal in mind, trying to expand that business. Don't take it as a hobby. Like, nobody should be working as a hobby. Just take it as an investment. You're investing your time, and just to secure your future and your families. So having a good, like, income tax, you're paying taxes in the future, can serve you if you're looking to, like, get some funding to get other properties.
Agree, definitely, definitely agree with that. So All right. Anything else that you wanted to share with the group before we take in the episode? I know it's getting around time, so I don't know if they're. First of all, I guess on your on the you mentioned your Facebook page, so that would be a good way for people to kind of get some info about business credit. I think that's pretty sweet that you talk about that kind of stuff on there. And any other resources you think you can maybe give some people that might be interested in going into the Airbnb or I shouldn't say Airbnb, let's say short-term rentals, be all encompassing, or the rental car sharing marketplace, right? Be all encompassing, not just Turo. Although those are the two most popular places, right? So, but yeah, maybe if you could share some resources or thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we have our Facebook group. We're gonna post a link somewhere. You can visit our Facebook group. We have 30,000 members, and we have a slew of members who have gone out there with the information that we provided. And again, I don't sell courses, I don't coach, I don't sell any of that. All the information that we provide in the group is for free, and we have hundreds of members that they've gone out there following the information that we've provided, and they've gotten Mercedes, BMWs, and stuff like that under their company's names. Also, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Business Credit Vertex, Vertex with EX. So if you want to learn more information there in that YouTube channel, what I did is just record my entire journey with business credit, and I'm telling you, the way that I started on business credit, you can do that. It was with $0. Okay, I started. Now, keep in mind that to build your business credit, you have to spend some money, right? Again, I don't doesn't have to be thousands of dollars, but you could spend some money to build your business credit to a level that when you go to a community apartment, they search your business. You have to have some kind of presence. Build a Google My Business page, build a website, build some kind of online presence, digital footprint, because remember, these underwriters are not dumb. Okay, don't think that you can fool them. Don't have that mentality of like, I'm gonna trick my way through it. Just do it the right way. That's why we offer all this information on our Facebook group.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thanks for your time today. It's been much appreciated. And everyone, that Facebook group that he's referring to is a nice free do-it-yourself type model. People spend a lot of time on there doing that kind of stuff, doing it themselves. I personally just kind of pay someone to help me build my business credit up because I think it's worth the payment to not have to deal with it in terms of my time. But if you're one of those guys that want to do a do-it-yourself model, absolutely, I think that's a great option for you because, like he said, there's no hard selling or anything like that on there. There's some people that sometimes post a little bit of stuff on there, but he does a pretty good job of blocking all those guys and kicking them off the platform. So it really is kind of a free, independent resource you can go to. People are sharing stuff that they're doing with each other, stuff like that. So definitely encourage you to check that out. Like you said, we'll post a link in the YouTube video. And if there's any other questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to leave them. We'll do what we can to respond to those. And this has been a great episode. So thanks for coming on, Wilber. And we will talk to you some more later, everybody. Hope you have a good one. Peace.
Thank you for having me. Bye.